Thank you, Mr. Bobbitt, and I'd like to thank Mr. Tristan and Mr. Tim for inviting SkillBean for this presentation. So let me just pull out my slides and okay. So just a short introduction to SkillBean. SkillBean is in the business of upskilling. So we're heavily into skills and development, especially learning and development as targeted for individuals and companies. So we create what we call learning journeys or learning tracks for people and companies too. Okay. So the importance of upskilling in a COVID-19 world now. Before I start my presentation, let me just give you some figures that I got from CNN Philippines. No? And I'd like everyone to focus on the first one. 7.3 million Filipinos lost their jobs during the pandemic. Now, that is a very alarming rate. No? I don't usually start off my presentation with a negative note, but the reality is this is what we face today. No? And that figure is just taken last April. So now it's actually July. And I believe just 2 or 3 weeks ago, DTI said that over 400,000 small and medium enterprises actually closed down during the ECQ period. Now, the reality is these events that we're experiencing now as a country is not really unique. This is happening globally. And the fact is, a lot of what is happening during this pandemic time is unprecedented. In fact, a lot of the things we are dismayed about how the government is actually moving right now, it has to be with the fact that because this is something new. And the fact that the idea of us going back to the old normal is actually gone, and that the new normal or what they call the brave new world is upon us. Now, a lot of things has been lost. But there are two things that we can do. One, we can actually focus on the negative. We can focus on what was lost and be better, or we move onwards and focus on being better for ourselves. Peter Drucker, a leading management guru, said, the question that faces everyone is not what he should do tomorrow. It is what he should do today to be ready for an uncertain tomorrow. Simply said, no, much of your success tomorrow lies on what you decide to do today. Much of your success tomorrow relies on what you decide to do today. With that said, okay, let me go now to my presentation. Now, what is upskilling now? What is meant by upskilling now? Now, upskilling simply means, one, to teach additional skills. Second, to learn additional skills. So it's simply about learning skills to improve oneself. No? Dalawa yan. There are two types of upskilling. One, you learn something new, and some people call that reskilling. Second, you augment or expand on skills that you already have. So learn something new and expand on skills that you already have. So what is the value of upskilling? I'll present to you a case study. We all know Singapore. And Singapore is one of the Asian countries that can go toe-to-toe with any first world country. In fact, the development of Singapore in just 2 generations is really unprecedented and really wonderful now. But remember, Singapore only existed as a country in 1965. And here's a small trivia for Singapore. Singapore is only almost as big as the Quezon City. It's practically a state that is the size of a city. And a lot of what is Singapore has to do with a very small landmass. And here's their dilemma. When Lee Kuan Yew initially started his government, a lot of the things that other countries have in terms of natural resources, Singapore doesn't. So even today, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of the resources, especially water, Singapore gets from the outside. But what they realized, what they had in abundance, was actually manpower. And not just manpower, but people who are willing to upskill in order to create a new nation. And that's what actually Singapore did, and that's what Singapore is still doing now. Singapore, initially from the very birth of their nation, decided that each Singaporean will have at least one skill that they can focus on. And second, Each Singaporean having that skill will be certified internationally. And that's how Singapore is built. Singapore is a country who actually benefited from upskilling. And in fact, just a few years ago, they created this program, and every Singaporean, I think by a certain age, can actually enter this program. It's called Skills Future, preparing Singaporeans for the future. Not just preparing for the future, but preparing Singaporeans for 21st century skills. Now, every Singaporean even has, I think, 500 Singaporean dollars to spend for every upskilling through the Skills Future program. Now, what am I driving at? No, why is upskilling important? Simply because upskilling is actually preparing for your future. Upskilling is preparing for your future. When you upskill now, you are actually investing something that happens now that will prepare you for the future. Okay, but as a country, no, we are not far behind. In fact, no, even though this has not been the focus of the Philippines for the longest while, we are actually a country heavily invested on upskilling. Just this year, we have 2.3 million skilled Filipino OFWs abroad with varying levels of skills, no? And in fact, Filipinos, as you know, pag lumabas yan sa ibang bansa, no, they are known for being innovative, and they're known to be having one of the most highly skilled people in the world, no? Kaya palakpakan po sa inyong mga seafarers, no? Now, why is upskilling valuable, no? Why is upskilling valuable? It's two things, no? One, it makes you competitive. When you upskill and when you actually reskill and learn more skill, you're already better than your siguro yung mga taong sa katabi mo. You're already better than what you were before. So upskilling makes you competitive. Second, it makes you employable. And at the end of the day, yun lang naman ang labanan eh. When you upskill, you increase your chances of employability. Now, let me focus on training and certification. Now, there are two levels of upskilling now. One, you upskill simply because you want to learn new skills and you want to learn new things. No, this is the reality. No, if you go to the internet now and you go to the different websites like Udemy, edX, and Coursera, they're actually giving out a lot of free courses. In fact, Cornell, I think Harvard has opened a lot of their courses in Udemy, edX, and Coursera, and you can all have them for free. But what we're targeting here is having the right training also and the right certification. No? Why? Because we're targeting employability. No? One, you can always go to free websites, and knowledge is good. Every knowledge that you get, you actually take that for your life. No? But when it comes to employability and greater competitiveness, we need a certain level of certification. Why? No? Certification assures that you have the right skills for a certain job. It assures the company that is going to hire you that you are actually certified for your skill set. Certification, remember this, ensures future employment. Now, why do we need to upskill, no? Diba? Bakit naman natin kailangan to upskill, no? I'll give you a simple reason, no? Things change. Everything changes in the world. Even before COVID-19 happens, no? Even before COVID-19 happens, no, things have been changing in the world. In fact, sabi nga nila, the 21st century is really, again, even before COVID, is an unprecedented time. When you talk about industry, when you talk about business, when you talk about especially technology, pabilis ng pabilis ang leaps of generation. And a lot of those, when there are a lot of changes in the environment, you have to move with the changes. You have to innovate. You have to actually move with the times. Kundi maiiwanan ka, di ba? And that's really why we need to upskill, no? Sometimes the skills that we have are no longer applicable in the workplace, no? But here's the good news, no? In every changes, there's always opportunities. Always remember this. In every changes, there's always opportunities. When the world closes a door, it actually opens another. And those opportunities, marami yan. You just have to look for it, no? Kadalasan kasi, when a lot of things change in our lives, no, we have a tendency to focus on what was lost, on the negative aspect, no. But in reality, no, that's why a certain area closes, because new opportunities spring up. And let me And let me remind you of this, though. You are always one decision away from a totally different life. You're always one decision away from a totally different life, no? So it's all up to us, no? We cannot stop change and we cannot stop innovation. Now, especially during these times, no? Especially during these times, no? Kakaiba to eh. This is not just a new normal, but a lot of things have changed because of this pandemic. No? Now, ang decision ngayon is, are we going to remain where we are or look for the opportunities where we can be better? Now, if your pathway is really to upskill within the next 2 to 3 years, no, realizing that maybe my industry, the maritime industry, will have to move slowly and have to change. No, in the meantime, while it's normalizing, what can I do now? Now, one of the ways is really to learn new skills now, and I'll teach you how. Okay, how do you define? How do you define your learning and development goals now? Kasi marami yan eh. We can always go to any website, no? Kagaya nga sabi kanina ni Mr. Napier. Uh, Online learning, marami yan ngayon. We can always go to any website and learn, no? But the key here is actually one, you have to focus. One, you have to focus. And what do we mean by focus? Know and define what you want to accomplish your end goal. Eh. Yung end goal nyo ba is really to, let's say, build while the maritime industry is normalizing, I can learn and augment existing skills in the shipping industry? Or ang end goal nyo ba is to temporarily shift to a new industry? Magkaroon kayo ng interim and then learn new skills like BPO skills. Or maybe some of you are actually thinking, baka siguro it's time for me to go into a different industry. Ang importante dyan, when you want to upskill, you first have to define your goal. Eh. What do you want to accomplish? Eh? Kasi kung hindi, parang dili-dali yan eh. Okay lang naman to learn if all the resources are available to you. Eh. But the thing here is, all resources are limited at this point. Eh, and you want to actually focus on the right goals for you so that you can focus on the right learning and development goal and upskilling goals. Eh. Okay, how do you do that? Eh? Okay, first, ask yourself what remained the same. Eh? Ask yourself what remained the same in terms of finances, in terms of family, assets, and health. So, especially health, no? Health is a wonderful resource. Write it down. Second, what changed? Eh? Again, in finances, family, job, assets, and health. Now, third, ask yourself, once you're able to wrongly list what remained the same and what changed, now ask yourself, how can you turn the changes into opportunities? Eh? Because every change, as I said, equals opportunities. Eh? And that's when you write, what additional skills do you need to make the opportunities happen? And better, actually, to write your goal statements. Now, second, once you're able to focus what you want to do in terms of upskilling, then second, prioritize your learning and development goals. What do I mean by this? List down at least 2 to 3 top learning goals. Why? It's always good to have a plan A, B, and C. Just in case yung plan A mo, hindi nag-work out. No? And third, commit to finishing. Commit to finishing. Why? No? You have to commit to finishing, not just in an ethical point of view, but simply because you actually invested time on it, diba? Kasi if you invested time on this, tas hindi mo tinapos, sayang yun eh. That's why always commit to finishing if you start your upskilling goals. Okay, now so SkillBean, we have actually partnered with Certif-ID to provide these training skills for you. Now we have interview skills, soft skills, and customer service skills. No, so that is already available for you to actually have through SkillBean. Okay, now let me give my final encouragements to you. According to Bob Brown, behind every successful man, there's a lot of successful years. A lot of unsuccessful years. Success of every man actually came because there were a lot of failures in his life. Second, make your life a masterpiece, according to Brian Tracy. Imagine no limitations in what you can be, have, or do. It's all up to you. And lastly, let me end with a quote from the good book taken from Proverbs 16, verse 3. Commit your works to the Lord, and your thoughts shall be established. You want to be successful? Go back to God. Why? Well, simply because He's the origin and author of life. With that, I'd like to say thank you. If you have any inquiries, additional questions, you can email me, Pons@skillbean.com. Thank you, Mr. Bobbitt.